This episode, John's trip to Seattle. Well, folks, Johnny just returned from Seattle. We thought we'd discuss some of his observations on the Great Pacific Northwest. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled John's Trip to Seattle. And to help me explain, here's John himself. There you go.
Oh, yeah, man. Just got back from Seattle. My daughter got married out there, and we had a great time out there.
So can I make a very quick diatribe on your daughter's wedding?
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, if you have a son, child, or you are contemplating getting married, we want to help save you some money. Do this planned elopement like John's daughter did. So they did basically a planned elopement. Where how many people were at the wedding, John?
There's I think 5 of us.
5,
minus a photographer.
So they planned this elopement. I think what was parents basically? Is that what it was? So parents come to the wedding. Perfect, right? I don't even know. Johnny and I have talked about this off camera at length about how much money they saved. Like thousands. Thousands.
They saved. Who's the they? You mean me?
Well, you, whatever.
But it is true. It's like, it costs money to, but it wasn't like some of these people are just throwing some of these massive weddings. And, even when I got married, I was like, it didn't make sense, to not, to take all that money and just, you
have a party
and you're done. And, take the money, invest it, and buy a house or something. Get yourself started in life.
Exactly. Yep, I concur. So,
but
anyway,
it was a beautiful trip. The trip back was even better because I got to sit in a middle seat with a guy that weighed about 300 pounds next to me. But that was all good. I let my wife sit at the window. So. Seattle is a beautiful area. We went up there. We drove all around. I had a couple of observations. We stayed in a part of town called Queen Anne, in a very nice house. The streets out there, I read a lot of reviews about Seattle before we went, but I don't ever recall anybody mentioning how skinny the streets were.
Really?
I mean, people are parking on the side of these streets, but you can barely get your car past them in these neighborhoods. It's almost like you're going to knock mirrors off. That's how close it is. It's really tight.
Wow.
If you've ever been to Boston, you see those old streets and, that kind of thing. But, it was, like I said, it was beautiful. We went downtown. I'll just get into it. Yeah, well, one of the things is I will tell you that I've never seen bigger cedar trees in my life, though. I mean, but, there's there isn't that AC, air conditioning is not pervasive out there.
Right.
I saw a lot of mini split units and stuff like that. It's that kind of, the weather was gorgeous when we were out there. There's no doubt about it. I will tell you that it was expensive.
Expensive.
It was expensive. Now,
give me some examples.
If you wanted to go eat, now this is what I saw. I was trying to stay out of the tourist stuff, to be fair. But it seemed like to me, if I recall correctly, is that like sandwiches, just hamburgers and stuff were like $18.
Cool. Well, that's high compared to us here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So
I'm coming from a different, right. So to be fair, I'm just, this is just trying to do apples to apples here. I think, if we go out and have a beer or something, it was like $9, $10.
Yeah, that's about right.
I mean, it was like, wow. So
Gasoline.
gasoline, 5.29 a gallon. I 5.25 a gallon. Um, I haven't paid that much for gasoline, and I don't know how long. And I will say this: I kind of looked at our demographics on our podcast here, and we've got a big following out in Seattle, Tacoma, and Spokane. I never knew that. So hi everybody out there. Sorry I missed you, but um, the homes were beautiful. There was a lot of really neat architecture out there. No wood rot that I saw, and I looked.
What a
But
shock.
yeah, but
Johnny
it
looking
was
for wood rot. Look at that.
13% humidity out there, and I will say that it's a good old north again, where this time of year the sun comes up at about 4:45 in the morning, doesn't go down to about 10.
Yep.
But
Yep. Yep.
just wait for winter when it switches. And then it's like,
Yeah, right.
without the sun, yikes. But back to that, I had to look up, just being nosy. We stayed in a really nice house. It was Airbnb. It was a ground floor, and I think the house was listed out at like 3.5 million or something like that. And so I had to go and look at, how much are you paying for taxes out there? A lot.
Well, taxes and everything,
A
right?
lot. A
Yeah.
lot. So it seemed to me, folks, if you live out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like it was a lot of money to live out there.
Yeah.
That's my observation on that.
It's yeah, and so we wanted to kind of skew this towards the fact that life is about choices, and that living in a what I call a high cost of living area, which there are many high
Yeah.
cost of living areas in the United States. They're just I mean, probably the most expensive, or one of the most expensive areas is New York City, is very much a high cost of living area, along with most major cities are relatively high cost of living area. But part of what we kind of wanted to point out is just that life is about choices, and you can choose to live in other places where, at the end of the day, in my never to be humbled opinion, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And you can live in these high cost of living areas, but you have to make more money. And so if you're a handyman, you've got to charge more,
That's
and
a
if you
good point.
don't, you're moving backwards, really, is what
Yeah.
it is. And because everything costs you more money. I mean, at five, so folks, to give you a perspective, we pay around 3.30 a gallon right now as we when we record this for gas, and that's actually a little bit on the high side. I paid 3.09 the other day, but I'm seeing most of the stations are around 3.29. So that's a good $2 a gallon difference. And when you spend as much time in a vehicle as we do, or at least as I do, every dollar counts. And so it is back to that. And then Johnny, you said the tax rates in Seattle were based on a progressive system or something like that. You actually looked it up.
I looked it up, and I looked up there, just on the tax record, and their taxes at this house that we were staying at went up. I think I don't want to be wrong. I think it was 15% in the last 2 years. So I
Wow.
kind of am like, I mean, what's going on there? Which this the tax rate at this house, I think, was 32,000 a year.
Well, it is what it
Yeah,
is. It's a valuable piece of property,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah. Well, I'm like, wow. But at any rate, I kind of dug into it, and I just kind of pulled up what was going on in the last couple of years, and it apparently there's a a new law that they have, or a new taxation scheme that they've got out there, where it's a sliding scale.
Hmm.
So
The more your house is worth, the more taxes you pay, basically.
right, right, and it goes in increments, in chunks, 500,000 to a
Right.
million to 2 million, and above that, it's at a 4%, 3% rate or something like that, which really starts to add up. I mean, so I think one of the comments, that we were saying, if you inherit a house or something like that, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It can really put you behind the eight ball just on a cash flow basis.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
It was a
it is again, it's about choices and things like that. And there's just a lot of there's things you can do to minimize your expenses, and one has to contemplate what what's your return. What how does it really work for you? We have a similar experience. I hate to say this, but John has a friend who moved a grand piano, and this is here in a, is this here this is here in
yeah.
Atlanta, right, John? And we're kind of like, why?
Yeah, I
Like
mean that.
it's
Yeah, so to each his own. But if you folks out there, if you know how big grand pianos are. I mean, this thing's not a baby grand. I mean, this is a grand piano,
a full
and
size
if
grand
you're,
piano. Yeah,
if um,
it requires a
it
room.
requires,
That's what.
yes, that's exactly right. It requires its own room, and it's not a bedroom.
Right.
I mean, this thing is big. So they sold the house. They went and are renting a townhouse. And I'm like, can what do you do with the piano? Oh no, we got room for that in there. I'm like, whoa, okay. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Choices, baby.
And
Choices.
there
It's
it
only a
sits, and
thousand
and
dollars to move
yeah,
that.
exactly. And there it sits on three legs, and you wonder what, maybe you could recoup some of that, space. Maybe you can dine underneath that thing. I don't know. I don't know what you. I mean, think about the space.
You could put fencing around it, John. It's a place for your dog to
Oh
stay.
my god, yeah, yeah. But
It's not even a joke.
yeah, I don't. But anyways, you're right. You got to make those. You got to make those choices. And I was just, my observation was that it was really expensive in that part of the country, and significantly made a difference when I was looking around. Now out there, you folks probably don't, give it two thought.
You don't give it
Yeah,
two thoughts because you really don't know
yeah,
any different.
yeah.
That's part
But
of
I
it.
will tell you that,
Um,
to your point, Larry, is that filling up that tank, just in the rental car before I brought it back to the airport. I'm like, wow, that was significant. You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so I remember when gas here was really high at the top. That it makes a difference, boy. I'm telling you, that one hurt, boy. So,
Johnny's like, what kind of finance options
oh,
do
I
you have?
know.
You're asking the DA attendant. What's your finance
Take
options
out a
here?
second mortgage, and it
Yeah.
was something. And I mean, I had a good time and everything. It just, boy, it was. I don't know, guys. I don't know, folks. It's expensive to live in some of these places.
Well, and we wanted to extrapolate this out. So, what's the significance to home maintenance and repair?
Yeah.
Well, the bigger that your home is, the more complicated your home is, the more your expenses are. And if you're contemplating buying a home, if you don't own a home or you're contemplating maybe downsizing, understand that having a big home is great if you actually use it. But if you don't actually use it, then you need to be thinking about what does it really cost me to own just this space. And in the case of a home, we've talked about these things we've talked about them very piecemeal, but when you put the whole package together, you do have to heat it, you have to cool it, you have to put a roof over it, you have to insure it, you have to pay taxes on it, you have to pay what else am I missing, Johnny? I mean, you have to
Utilities.
pay for water,
I mean,
utilities.
the whole thing, right? The maintenance on it, as we talk about all the time here on the show.
It
Um,
is
it, it
it is not linear either. It is not
no,
one for one. It actually is exponential.
you're at
So the
no.
bigger
That's
it
a good
is, the
point
more
right there.
expensive it gets.
That's a good point right there. Like we were talking about, where I live, and I've got my arms around this house right now, so to speak, of maintenance. Um, but I will say that, just working around, this neighborhood at this age, these age homes, if you don't keep up with it, wow, you're.
Gets away from you
And
quickly.
a lot of these folks, they've got some big homes around here that, if you're there all by yourself, I mean, it's just from the standpoint of what you said, the heating and the cooling, the maintenance and the upkeep of that. Oh man, it never ends.
Well, it's a home. It
Yeah,
never ends.
yeah, yeah.
Right, Johnny?
I
I mean,
mean,
we know this from our customers, right? I
yeah,
always laugh.
yeah.
People say, "Well, I don't know when I'll see you again." And I look at them and with a smile on my face, I said, but you will see me
right.
again.
Yeah.
Because it's a home.
Right.
And something will break, or something will need attention before you know it. It just is that, it is that thing. Johnny, your homes are all in that magic 20 to 30-year-old mark, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I call it the magic 20 to 30-year-old range because that's when everything is getting replaced from its first iteration largely.
Yeah.
The roof's getting done, the HVAC's getting done, the plumbing might have something going on with it, blah, blah, blah. It's just kind of
Yeah,
that,
no, you're
that 20.
absolutely right. For systems such as like electrical and plumbing and stuff
Right.
like that, you could probably get maybe, the 40 to 50 years out of it.
Depends.
But
Depends.
but for the rest of it, you're going to start to flip things around. I mean, your showers, are only designed, are only going to last for X amount of years. The house moves, and things break apart and all the kinds of stuff, whether you know it or not, right? So we talk about that a lot.
Right.
But like I said, yeah, just dealing with the age homes around here. It's never ending. So.
And as we said in one of our other shows, that's why John does so little marketing in his own neighborhood, because he just goes to the pool and starts talking, and the next thing you know, business is coming his way.
Yeah. So. Oh yeah, it never ends. Matter of fact, after this, I got to go down to the pool myself, and there's some stuff I got to fix down there. There's gonna be new switches installed, and I mean, I'm like, God, these things are broken already. They don't timers and stuff. I'm like, okay, great. We'll take care of it.
Hey, I've been paying my homeowners association fees all these years. I'm going to recoup some of my money back.
Right.
So there you go. Right. So there you go. All right. Well, anything else exciting on your trip out there to Seattle besides a progressive income or real estate tax?
No. I will say everybody out there was extremely nice to us, very friendly. We just had a really good time out there. I looked at it and said that the weather was just perfect. It was crystal clear for the whole week we were there, in the 70s, the high 70s, low humidity, great. But I know you all you folks out there, what's coming.
Winter.
I don't think they get such a bad winter, but it drizzles a lot, right? So, I heard, everybody's like, well, it rains more in Atlanta or whatever than it does out there. Yeah, but we get it all at once, and then we're done with it. So,
don't we?
Yeah, be done with it. But any of you,
that old song "Rainy Night in Georgia," folks, you need to live in Georgia before you really understand what that means. It's like, wow,
I'll tell you what, you've been in a Miami rainstorm. That's a killer. But any of you folks out there and that's listening out in Seattle, drop us a line. Let us know where we might be going wrong. But I certainly enjoyed your city. That's for sure. It's beautiful. So,
well, awesome. All right, with that, Johnny. With that, we've been doing a lot of UFO stuff lately, so I think we won't.
Man, I am telling you, is that all over the news?
All over the news. But anyway, be that as it may, the spaceship's landed. Do we look at it? Do we take it apart? Yes, we do both, is what we actually do. And if you enjoy the Handyman Pros radio show, please tell your friends and neighbors. We really appreciate it. Send them a link. Tell them these two guys. Every once in a while, we know what we're talking about. And we do try to give you good tips on helping to save you time, money, and aggravation. But with this particular show, about really the tips here are to, think about your choices is really what it is. Think about, your choices to live and about the size of home you have and all that kind of stuff. And we're not condemning anybody if you have the need and if you have the desire and, you can
go for it,
it's
baby.
all about choice. It's all about choice.
Go for it.
And so with that, all right. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, send us an email, questions at handymanprosradioshow.com. Drop us a line we have a Facebook page that's at Handyman Pros. You can drop us a line there too. We're always able to get a hold of. You can send us a smoke signal. I like those the best because I can see them. So anyway, thank you for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.